In the last 10 years of the Liberal government, the number of vehicles produced in Canada has fallen from 2.3 million cars to 1.2 million. Their plan forced working Canadians to send their tax dollars to subsidize the purchase of EVs that most Canadians cannot afford, and the vast majority of which of those EVs sold in Canada are not made in Canada. That means some of the biggest winners of this subsidy program are American auto workers. Instead of forcing Canadian workers to subsidize foreign-made vehicles, why not adopt the Conservative plan and remove the GST on all new vehicles in Canada?
And that is why Canadians need to be able to have access to more money to afford the right cars.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the official opposition, I would like to reiterate the messages of condolences and support from this House to the victims who are still fighting for their lives, for those whose lives were cut short, and for their families, and for the community still reeling from the senseless shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Je souhaite réitérer le message de...
I wish to repeat the condolences and support of this House to those families affected, those whose lives were tragically taken. Our condolences and thoughts to the very shaken community.
As to the support being provided, and share any news that would be appropriate as this investigation proceeds.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et pour la question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for his question.
Been grieving since the horrific events of Tuesday, and nowhere is that grief more deeply felt than in the community of Tumbler Ridge itself. The residents have come together to support each other in this time of indescribable pain, and obviously, Mr. Speaker, we want to assure them they are not alone. The Minister of Public Safety is in Tumbler Ridge working with colleagues, and including the Member of Parliament, working with provincial and municipal partners to hear directly from the community and coordinating with those levels of government. Service Canada officials are planning to be present very soon on the ground as well, and we expect that further updates will be provided from the RCMP as information becomes available and as their investigation progresses. Finally, Mr. Speaker, at the invitation of the Mayor of Tumbler Ridge, the Prime Minister will be travelling to the community on Friday to attend a vigil in memory of the victims of this week's tragic shootings, and the Prime Minister has invited leaders of all parties to accompany him to the community. Mr. Speaker, this has been a dark week in the history of our country, and I know we will all, working together, get through this, and we continue to send our heartfelt best wishes and sympathies to the people of Tumbler Ridge.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
I thank the Minister for that update. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian dream of home ownership is fading for too many young Canadians. Despite lots of announcements, the actual results from the Liberal housing plan is downright depressing. Home ownership among 30 to 34-year-olds has fallen to 52%. New home sales are down from 45% in the GTA and 56% in Vancouver. In fact, the government's own housing agency is predicting that new home starts will fall, not increase, by more than 18% for the next 3 years. It's clear more bureaucracy isn't the answer. When will the government adopt the Conservative plan to kickstart home building by removing the GST on all new homes and restore the dream of home ownership for young Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government cares deeply about affordability for young Canadians, and that's why before the House right now is the Build Canada Homes Act. Build Canada Homes is about strengthening Canada's future by creating a modern, resilient housing industry. We are building an industry that protects our economy, empowers our workers, and gives Canadians, especially young Canadians, the affordable housing they need. The Build Canada Homes Act is before this House. We hope the members opposite will support it.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Speaker, the government's own data shows that building bureaucracy doesn't actually get results. But the Liberals also have it backwards on the auto sector. In the last 10 years of the Liberal government, the number of vehicles produced in Canada has fallen from 2.3 million cars to 1.2 million. Their plan forced working Canadians to send their tax dollars to subsidize the purchase of EVs that most Canadians can't afford, and the vast majority of which of those EVs sold in Canada are not made in Canada. That means some of the biggest winners of this subsidy program are American auto workers. Instead of forcing Canadian workers to subsidize foreign-made vehicles, why not adopt the Conservative plan and remove the GST on all new vehicles?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
I would like first and foremost to extend my, of course, prayers and heart to the victims and families in Tumbler Ridge, and know that this government is in support of those affected. Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind my colleague that the money that is going to be supported in EV incentives is actually for Canadians, at a time where we need to make sure that affordability is at the core of everything we do as a government. And that is why Canadians need to be able to have access to more money to afford the right cars, including those made in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The dream of homeownership is now a fantasy for more and more young Canadians. 93% of them are saying that they are concerned about the state of housing. Nearly half of them believe they will have to leave their own communities because they can't afford to live there. The government's own housing agency says home building will drop over the next 3 years and prices will go up even more. But I've got good news for the Liberals. We have a solution. A Conservative government would remove the GST on new homes under $1.3 million to make them more affordable. Why won't the Liberals do it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I have good news for the Conservatives. There are 2 bills before this House that they can support that improve affordability for young Canadians. The first is the Budget Implementation Act, which brings in the first-time home ownership GST rebate. The second thing it brings in is housing infrastructure that brings down the cost of housing. Wow. And on top of that, they can support the Build Canada Homes Act, which is catalyzing modern methods of construction and creating jobs for young Canadians.
Excellent. The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing these Liberals are building is false hope and bureaucracy. Liberal house flippers and penthouse dwellers profit while young Canadians pay the price. On this side of the House, we listen to the experts. The London Home Builders Association told me this week that builders have to spend tens of thousands of dollars per home just on red tape and regulations. Every dollar spent on bureaucracy pushes homes further out of reach for young Canadians. Ontario lost 10,000 home building jobs last year because no one is able to build. When will the Liberals reverse course, cut the red tape, and scrap the GST on homes for families?
Exactly. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I know the members' community I know is riding very well. They expect better than hurling insults. That's not a way to get things done in this House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. The point is, and he talks about the London Home Builders Association, it's good. We met this week as well. They talked about, among other things, the Housing Accelerator Fund, which in St. Thomas alone is leading to duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, mid-rise apartments, and row houses. We're going to continue in that vein, working with municipalities, because we're going to get things done for Canadians and not play games.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Speaker, because of the Liberals, the dream of homeownership is fading for young Canadians. According to CMHC, new housing starts will drop every year for the next 3 years. Nearly half of Canadians say they have to move out of the community they grew up in because they can't afford a home. Instead of incentivizing new construction, the Liberals are building a 4th housing bureaucracy called Build Canada Homes. For what? Why won't the Liberals adopt our Conservative plan, remove the GST of all new homes, and get construction going in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More good news. Build Canada Homes is delivering affordable housing for Canadians. In just 100 days, they have secured landmark agreements with the provinces and the cities. Wow. Advanced building on 6 federal lands. They're lining up thousands of affordable homes, grounds with shovels in the ground very soon. And over the past month alone, they have projects underway in Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, and they're setting forth on delivering 7,500 new homes. Wow. This is how we catalyze a new home building industry. Excellent. And you know what? Keep the momentum going. Support Build Canada Homes Act.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for York Centre.
The only thing the Liberals are building is a fourth housing agency. More desk jobs for Liberal insiders and more Liberal waste. But CMHC is telling them their housing plan is dead on arrival. New housing starts will fall every year for the next 3 years. Builders are laying off workers, and Build is warning that 100,000 construction jobs are now at risk. So instead of building a fourth government agency, why won't they adopt our Conservative plan, remove the GST of all new construction so young people can afford to buy a home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I wish that the Conservatives knew more about construction. It seems what they know about is obstruction. Mr. Speaker, if these Conservatives cared about building homes for young Canadians, they would pass the 2 bills that we have before the House right now. They would pass our Budget Implementation Act, and they would pass our Build Canada Homes Act, because those are the tools that are getting shovels in the ground right across Canada for the next generation of young Canadians who need affordable homes.
The Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Under this Liberal government, the Canadian dream of home ownership is rapidly fading for young people. CMHC reports that housing starts are actually going to be down over the next 3 years by up to 18% compared to last year. So why don't the Liberals just adopt the Conservative plan to eliminate GST on all new housing construction up to $1.3 million and help restore the dream of home ownership for young Canadians?
Yeah, right. That's the Capper Van Hoff.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, thoughts and prayers for the community of Tumbler Ridge. That's a party that's not serious about housing. Their leader called middle-class housing shacks, co-op housing Soviet style. There's members on that side that mocked modular homes.
Wow.
And to cap it all off, that leader told his members not to advocate for housing programs in their ridings that would have helped their ridings. On this side of the House, we're serious about building housing. Budget 2025 is going to deliver housing like we've not seen built in generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that answer is completely unacceptable. The Canadian Homeowners Association, Builders Association, says that 5 years ago, new housing starts in the ownership market stood at 69%, the rest being in the rental market. Last year, that number had dropped down to 49%. So despite all the nice talk, clearly the Liberal plans are not helpful for prospective new buyers. So again, why don't they just adopt our plans and help restore the dream of homeownership once again for Canadians?
Well done. Great job, Jacob. Great job.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, our big focus is to build as many housing as possible. We're going to build that housing through Canada Build Homes. We're going to build that housing on federal lands, just like in my community in Ottawa Centre, where we're repurposing federal buildings, we're repurposing federal lands to build housing, and we will do that across the country. Some slogans is not going to cut it, as we see from the opposition. They need to stop obstructing. They need to part Bill C-20 so we can start building housing across this land.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
The Canadian dream of home ownership is slipping away from young Canadians. The government's own housing agency says housing starts will fall for the next 3 years, going down as much as 18% by 2028, while prices keep going up. After years of Liberal policies that drove up costs and slowed down constructions, buyers can't buy and builders can't build. And the only solution the Liberals can come up with is to build a fourth housing bureaucracy. When will this government admit that Liberal rhetoric and bureaucracies don't build homes and finally scrap the GST on all new homes, incentivize building, and restore the dream of home ownership?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's regrettable the member opposite is in supportive of Build Canada Homes. I was just in his riding, where we actually announced a project, and I spoke with the residents that are living in affordable housing there, and they talked about how important it was. So we know that with Budget 2025, we're working to accelerate construction. We're cutting delays. We're increasing permitting capacity. We're working with local governments to get more homes built. While we're doing that, they're voting against expanding mortgage rate criteria for young Canadians. They're voting against the first-time savings account, and they're voting against the GST credit for first-time homebuyers. Why?
Mr. Speaker, there has been an outpour of grief and support across this country following the Tumbler Ridge tragedy that occurred on Tuesday. This House has come together to honor the innocent lives lost. Can the Secretary of State for Combating Crime please reflect on the mass shooting in BC?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, the nation is heartbroken by this tragic shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia. Our hearts are with the families and friends and loved ones of all the victims, and with the little girl who is currently fighting for her life. May we all keep her in our prayers. We are forever grateful for the speed and courage of the RCMP and all first responders on that day. Their actions and bravery have saved lives. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Despite the Liberals signing on to $52 billion to create an EV supply chain in Canada, the vast majority of EVs bought here are not made here. And now, despite the massive government subsidies, the auto companies are recording multi-billion-dollar losses on EVs and abandoning or delaying EV projects. But the Liberals now are doubling down with their new $2.3 billion EV subsidy, where Canadian workers will be forced to subsidize the purchase of foreign-made EVs, including EVs made in the United States. At a time like this, Mr. Speaker, it's unconscionable. Will the Liberals reverse course and stop Canadian tax dollars from funding the American-made EVs?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Of course, we believe in affordability, and we believe that Canadians can have access to EV incentives up to $5,000 for a car up to $50,000, and also for Canadian EVs, because obviously we believe that the future of the industry is towards electrification. Recently, there were more EV sales in Europe than gas combustion cars. And at the same time, we know that in the next 5 years, 40% of all the cars worldwide will be electrified. So our plan is to make sure that we bring our industry at the forefront of innovation and that good jobs are created here.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the bottom line is the American tariffs have cost 5,000 jobs in Canada's auto sector and tens of thousands more jobs in the manufacturing sector across the board. And meanwhile, the Liberals created a $2.3 billion taxpayer-funded program that will subsidize the purchase of American-made EVs to the direct benefit of the American auto sector when they're trying to destroy our auto sector. This is wrong, and the minister can easily rectify this. Will she do that?
The Honourable Minister.
I have a lot of time for my colleague, a lot of respect for her, but she also knows that our auto industry is facing obviously important challenges, but it took months for the Conservatives to actually denounce the U.S. tariffs on auto. And we know that the entire sector is integrated within North America, Canada, U.S., Mexico. Now, when she's talking about EVs made in the U.S., she has to take into account, and Conservatives need to take into account, that Canadian auto parts are part of these EVs. Is she going after the Canadian auto parts workers all across Ontario? That's my question.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
On Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening, I was in Toronto with the Unifor Skilled Trades Council conference. Those are the men and women that actually work in our auto plants to make sure the machinery and equipment works. And when I told them that their tax dollars were going to go to subsidize the purchase of American EVs, they were outraged and disgusted. Actually, they couldn't believe it was happening. So it's simple. Why would Canadian tax dollars be going to subsidize American EVs when Donald Trump is trying to kill our auto industry? Will they show they care about auto workers by cancelling the rebates for American EVs?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, finally, my colleague met with the Unifor workers. It took him months to do that. We've been in contact with Unifor since the get-go, before even U.S. tariffs were imposed. We've been in contact with them to make sure that we would be working together as one Team Canada, because it took also months for the Conservatives to actually denounce the U.S. tariffs on the workers. We're there with the industry, from industry, businesses, to auto workers, unions. Everybody's in favor of the auto strategy, including Premier Ford. Why are they?
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
I have met with auto workers for the past 2 years. It's how we came up with our policy to take the HST off of all Canadian autos. It's actually the union workers' idea. What isn't their idea is to give their tax dollars to Donald Trump's America to build American vehicles. And these Liberals will not answer this question. Why are they giving these subsidies to EVs made in America when Donald Trump's stated goal is to destroy the Canadian auto industry? It's embarrassing, it's disgraceful, it's disgusting. They should look Canadian auto workers in the eye and apologize, but I know they won't.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I've known the colleague for a long time. He does have passion, I'll grant him that. Sometimes that passion leads him to act a bit too quickly. He forgot to talk to unions, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this week, he and other Conservatives raised the situation of workers at CAMI in Ingersoll, talking about the withholding of severance. What he forgot to do is actually talk to Unifor. Local 88 in Ingersoll came out with a statement. I'll review it for him, Mr. Speaker. We can look at it together. They said that their political posturing is unacceptable and they should not take advantage of the working people of Ingersoll. That's a direct quote, Mr. Speaker. It's unacceptable.